guns, that people do have guns of their own.
Well, again, historically, the use of troops to put down civil disturbance doesn't come out favorably, i.e. Kent State, okay? Young guys with guns end up shooting students. That was never the intent, and students were throwing flowers, not rocks. But you come back to the same thing, common sense. If you come up against an armed force, I think you want to just walk away, not start throwing rocks, not start a battle, thinking that they're going to be inactive, they're going to be inert, they're not going to do anything. Trump is just basically saying, listen, folks, those people in the military are in the military for two things. The only reason you're in the military is to blow things up and kill people. That's the basis of a military.
All right. So how do they get in to the United States? Asylum is what most people are saying. Policymakers are thinking that they can just say asylum, and the policy of the U.S., which currently allows people to ask for that very thing called asylum, whether they enter the U.S. legally or illegally, the Border Patrol puts them in the system and releases them into the U.S.
Now, that's administrative.
Now, that's with the promise that migrants will appear at a hearing, which is often 2 years or more. And so that is the flaw, perhaps, in our legal system. But this has been the prevailing, where they're able to do this, and they're allowed, we have allowed, right or wrong, due process.
Right. Administratively.
If they say asylum.
Well, administratively,
so they're
that's
in their
function.
country for 2 years, at least, bare minimal.
Well, what's happening is that administratively they've decided we'll give you a hearing, and while you're having the hearing, here's the big administrative blunder, we're going to allow you out on your own recognizance. You can stay in the country, but please come back to court, and no one comes back. It's not new. In 1983, I represented some Mujahideen Afghani that came into the U.S. illegally through the Philippines. They were all given hearings, but they were all detained. They were detained until the hearings, and half of them got sent back. Half actually were granted asylum. They were Christians trying to escape from Afghanistan because of the war with the Russians. It happens time and time again, but what we've now got is the big push from the South, where we have drugs coming in, we have criminals, we have criminals coming in. We can't just assume that everyone coming in here is coming in like our grandparents or great-grandparents coming to contribute. And Trump made a good point yesterday. He said, if you're coming here to fulfill a need, to provide a service, to obtain an education, and to contribute to society, you're welcome to come, but you have to follow the rules. And that's the basic problem with this leftist mentality that rules don't matter.
That's right.
The only rules that matter is we want to pass some rules for you guys to follow. I don't want you to have a gun. I don't want you to have the right to keep your income. So if we're a nation of laws, then the law says you must enter the United States as follows.
Right.
And we're not going to prohibit anyone from doing it.
But as you know, we're a nation of laws, but how many are followed? Now, Trump said that he's going to sign a comprehensive executive order next week, and everybody's watching this and what this is going to mean. You already got people from the ACLU and Civil Liberty Union. They're all pissed off. He wants to overhaul the asylum process. What is it going to do?
He's making the administrative change.
Now, what he wants to do include holding asylum seekers in facilities near the border, specifically, until their cases are heard, and that he said he would prevent them from fleeing and never showing up at court. Okay, so the order would also require asylum seekers, this is smart, I think, to come to the U.S. at an official port of entry, kind of like, gosh, do you remember this? Ellis Island? I don't remember it personally, but I'll tell you what, my fathers did. My grandfather and his grandfather that came through Ellis Island, they were documented.
My grandmother was 14, her sister was 10 years old, and they were held at Ellis Island for 2 weeks until they could send a telegram to the family that was receiving them and receive one back saying, yes, we'll take them. Had they not gotten the telegram back, they'd have been put back on a ship and sent back. We've always had laws. We've always had people seeking asylum. and they come in an orderly fashion. You just can't run to the front of the line and say,
that's not what progressives say. Progressives have a whole different take on all of that, you know. So asylum is not a program for those living in poverty. Trump said this. There are millions of people in the world living at the poverty level. The United States cannot possibly absorb them all. Asylum is a very special protection intended only for those fleeing government persecution based on race, religion, and other prosecuted statuses. You know, and that can be reviewed. That can be looked at. But when you get all these people from all these places all one time saying one thing, Trump's right. We absorb more immigrants to America every year than any country on the planet. At what point we spend billions of dollars in entitlements for people just because, and they're illegal. They don't want to be documented. I remember during the whole Hillary Clinton deal, where they hated what Trump said, that, with Mexico, that we didn't want, people that were just off the radar, that we wanted to know who was coming in the border, which is kind of smart. What country wouldn't want to know who's coming in? I mean, without borders, you don't have a country. It's just, anyway.
Why do you think there are border crossings? Why is there a gate?
Because this is just more common sense, man.
Yeah. Well,
it's just more of stuff that people need to really just sit there for a moment and ponder the very, very thought. Here's Donald Trump on the Ingram angle on Fox News.
As soon
Channel.
as you make any statement nowadays with the political correctness world, they make a big deal. I'm not a globalist, but I want to take care of the globe. But first, I have to take care of our country. I want to help people around the world, but we have to take care of our country or we won't have a country, including we have to take care of our country at the border.
Mike, the president's right.
He's absolutely right. I would just wonder how the media would react if we went and rounded up 2,000 homeless people in San Diego, marched them down to National City, and tried to get them into Mexico.
Yeah.
Do you think that the media would be all up in arms when the Mexicans say, no, you can't enter this country?
No, they wouldn't be interested in the story.
No. This is ridiculous. You either are a country of laws or you're not a country.
What they'll do is they'll play the Michael Jackson song, We Are the World, We Are the Children, when they see, and that will be, because you got CNN, you'll have PBS, CBS, NBC, ABC, and they'll show these little kids with their mommies holding their hands. And listen, I have a heart for people that are trying to escape, people raping them and taking advantage of them. They're hungry and all that. There is a place for this country to absorb immigrants, but there's a right way to do it. Asylum has to be looked at. And I think they're going to review these cases one by one, but to allow all these people in all at one time without review, you don't know if you have ISIS operatives that are embedded with them. You don't know who these people are. And you talk about mental illness. You don't think mental illness comes in from South America?
Well, there's a huge child trafficking problem. And there's a huge human trafficking problem, bringing in women to work in prostitution or porn or be slaves.
Well, that's another big one.
It's a worldwide everyone's aware of that. Well, what makes you think that wouldn't be a convenient way to smuggle children or women in mass like this?
Right.
So whose obligation is it to check and see that when that person says this is my child, that they can prove it's their child? Simple as that.
Well, listen, the Fifth Amendment states that no person shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process law. Now, interesting enough, I mentioned PBS, right? A recent PBS report cited former Supreme Court Justice Antonio Scalia, who, interesting enough, ruled in 93 case that it was well established that the Fifth Amendment entitles aliens to due process of law in deportation proceeding.
Within the United States, once they've made an entry, once you're in the United States, you're subject to the Constitution. But the definition, immigration definition, used to be a lawful entry meant you came through a port, a border, and you presented yourself.
There you go.
And you were admitted, or you were admitted and detained.
That's one of the others. Okay. So the caravan is down to 4,000 now. It started out at 7,200. Dehydration, fatigue, health issues, all of these things. But 4,000 people, that's still quite a bit of people.
That's a ton of people.
A lot of people. So this lawsuit is really, it's got people up in arms right now because you got these migrants who are suing. And you know what? You get the bleeding heart liberals. Who do you think is suing Donald Trump? Do you think it's the migrants, or do you think it's the ACLU lawyers? Well, that are looking out for them? It's the left trying to make this an issue. And guess what? What all of them are going to be called if they get asylum, if they get into the country, paid voters. And Hillary Clinton likes them. Obama, yeah, I love them. You can vote. If you're illegal, yeah, come to the polls. It's okay. I mean, shouldn't that be illegal in itself? If you're not a legal United States, citizen, should you be able to vote at the polls legally?
That's voter fraud.
But guess what? It happens and has happened. And you know what really irks the left tremendously, even Hillary Rotten Clinton? It irks them tremendously because they just, they had the fireworks barge and they're getting ready to set that baby off. She knew she screwed up, dude.
Well, I think to turn this to a positive, Keith, we got to remember that this was all going on right up till 5 o'clock on election night in the presidential election. The media was saying it's over, it's over. So I think if you take everything you're hearing today and say, how did that look 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. The polling, the craziness is all the media's hype. I think you're going to find on Tuesday that there's gains in the Senate. The House may break even or may stay Republican, but people are going to turn out. Not the people. Have you answered a poll lately? Has anyone called you and polled you?
I've had them here in Tampa, yeah.
Okay. Well, we don't get asked very often.
Trump's derangement syndrome, though, still exists.
Well, it does, but it existed before the election, and I think mainstream America, whatever you want to call it, people who generally obey the law,
the people,
go to work,
Mr. and Mrs. America,
this group, that they're going to turn out, they're going to vote, and they're going to put this down in a lawful manner.
Yes.
I don't hear anyone conservative or on the right or even in the center, an independent, saying, let's get in their face, let's be uncivil. If you see your representative, get in their face, chase them out of restaurant. You don't hear that. Those people, what was called the silent majority, exercised their right to vote 2 years ago. They're going to do it again on Tuesday.
All right.
And let's see where it goes from there.
Well, you got a professor, I don't know if you saw this story, but it's pretty sick here on the Blaze. And like Glenn Beck's news agency, he puts out some good stories that are pretty relevant here. But a professor is handing out extra credit assignments that encourage students to compare the policies of President Donald Trump to that of the Nazis.
That's wonderful.
Thank you talking about spewing hate and then comparing, come on, seriously. You may not like Donald Trump's policies, you may not like how he speaks, but I'll tell you what, there is a lot of great things that have happened in America since Donald Trump has taken the presidency.
Well, you remember what William Jefferson Clinton said at the midterm elections when he was president.
He said a lot of things.
He said, well, one of the things he said,
I did not have sex.
With that woman.
Not that one.
Hillary Clinton. No, he said, it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
Well, it is the economy. October jobs up 250,000. Adding 1,000 jobs in manufacturing a day.
There you go.
Hispanic unemployment, all-time low.
African-American.
Wage gain, strongest in a decade.
Middle class.
And this is the one that really gets me. Even the pollsters admit Trump's approval rating is 51%.
There you go. And that's pretty enormous.
And a record 156,562,000 employed.
And the stock market baby is cooking.
And the money in the stock market, by the way, folks, is your savings. It's people's pension funds.
Yeah.
This is money that Americans have saved. This is not a reflection of corporate greed. This is your pension money, your retirement money, and it's going up. Now, I think the reality is that I hate to say that Bill Clinton never said anything that was true, but this is right. It is the economy.
It's the economy, stupid.
People are going to vote with their wallets on Tuesday.
Yeah, they will.
And you're going to see, hopefully, some return to civility.
Civility, yeah. Well,